All right, here we are. Beautiful Urban Jungle Brewing Company, what's left of it, here in my garage. Today I thought I'd post a video of some of the equipment and where we are with things. I'm going to get everything back to normal and be able to brew here pretty soon. So it takes time to pull it all together, and that's the plan, is to do it little by little until I can fire up this brewery and get going again. I got here a rack with most of my brewing equipment on there. There's stuff up there for drying bottles. I got the false lids and seals for the fermenters. Set of books here, my brewing books, and all of the recipes. We got a box of other miscellaneous tubes and hoses used to clean out jockey boxes and stuff. We got a Homer box with all the good stuff in it, packed to the gills. There was some other things here that we have for brewing a bag. Well, there's other stuff that has to go away. Chemicals, carbonation droplets that are probably no good. All right, we have filters for the inline filter. We have hop canisters, screened hop canisters for fermentation. I'll put the dry hops in there and drop them into the tank. In the back here are a couple of large sight glasses. We got a piece that came out of the hop rocket, never used that. Some chemicals, oh yeah, lawn stuff. Years of brewing magazines, and there's a aerator, mash paddle, other paddles. Down on the bottom here, below everything, is a keg cleaner, drawers out of the freezer. You got a, well, here it is for grinding my grain, and there's a couple of 5,000 liter or 5,000 milliliter Ermenthaler, whatever, beakers for building large yeast starters. We got our pH meter. Over here is a 3-tap kegerator that I hope to fill up pretty soon. Down here are some oxygen and CO2 bottles. There's a bunch of hops of all varieties. Some beer, purchased beer and things, drinks in the garage. Here's a big freezer that holds 6 kegs. Down below here, hiding, let me pull this out of the way, are 2 fermentation tubs. I can put 2 6.5 gallon fermenters in there on wheels to roll around. There's holes in the top right there for the bubblers to pop out, and you can put a little water in there and throw frozen water bottles in there to keep the fermentation at a reasonable temperature. You got to throw water bottles in there every 6 to 8 hours, depending on the outside temperature in this garage, which can be pretty darn hot sometimes. But there's 2 of those. Let's come on over here, go around the outside. Down here are a bunch of glass fermenters, a chiller. I use a white hose, marine hose, for pulling water out of the sink. It's sitting here on a grinder. I never got this thing finished, but it's got a motor and a Frankenstein professional size grain grinder. I just got to finish that off and build something on top of it. Got to get all this junk off. All right, so there's a couple of extra kegs. Come around this side. We got a hot liquor tank, which will be replaced by this here. We have our mash tun. It's a 30-gallon mash tun. I have a water filter down there for filtering the water that comes out of the faucet so there's no schmutz in it, and put that into the hot liquor tank. Here's a section. This is my Herms system. There's a temperature controller, runs off at 220. I couldn't find a 110 one at the time, that runs into the bottom of this rim system. And what I do is I circulate the wort through the mash tun, and I've got a temperature probe that drops down into this thermal probe into the center of the mash. You can see how it goes down in there far enough. And the circulation runs such that it runs through this little filter, which needs to be cleaned out. And what it does is it sprays the wort on top of the mash and circulates it through. I just run it out the bottom, through the bottom of this pump, or through the pump, and then up back around and pump it through. Works great. I can see the temperature on here, but I usually use this temperature probe down into there to keep it running, and it works wonderfully. I set this at a certain temperature, and the temperature loss in the system between the mash and the pump and the coming through might be a degree, so it's not really that much. I can pop it up a degree and keep it hot. From there, I use the other pump. I use that pump, switch things around, and pump it into the boil kettle. And from there, now the boil kettle is kept hot by the Zettel metal system right here. I just use propane on that, and that's cheap. I've got plenty of propane bottles over here to last me a while. And when it's done, when the boil is finished, what I'll do is I'll drop it down into this pump it through the Blickman Therminator, running chilled water in and out, and sprinkle the lawn with the sprinkler there, with the water that comes out, waste not, want not, and can then, with the right hose and stuff, put it over here into one of the fermenters. Now these fermenters work great. I've got to do some cleaning on them, but they're half barrel fermenters. They're jacketed with neoprene, and they have inside well, let's open this up and we can take a look. But inside there's a stainless steel coil system, and through that I used to pump chilled water to keep the fermentation at the right level, temperature at the right level, and that was monitored with a thermal probe down inside. Thermal probe right down here inside, and hooked into my S&S Technologies Brewing Technologies system. So inside here we have the kettle. Here's the brew system. Here's the two coils, and this has worked beautifully. It's been a beautiful system when it works. It does work. I have a little side temperature probe on here. Just got to get batteries for it, and you plug this in here and it will give you a quick readout of what the temperature is of the fermentation. This is good. This is brand spanking new. I haven't even used this yet. This replaces the cold water chiller, because that I would have to chill large blocks of water or throw ice in it or freeze water bottles and keep the water as cold as I can to keep the fermentation down. And you would have to throw water bottles in there every 3 or 4 hours, because it wasn't working when you had both of them running. But this is going to this is a glycol system, and what this is going to do is it'll chill the glycol inside here, with the copper coils, and inside there's a couple of pool pumps down there in the bottom and the returns, and the chilled glycol will run up chilled glycol will run through these pipes and through the loops and then back in, and it will, based on the temperature here, to start and stop the pool pumps, this will be running at 28 to 32 degrees here on the coils inside there to keep the glycol cold enough so that when this thing kicks in, it keeps the fermentation at the right temperature, and we're good. Over here I have a 4-tap jockey box that was used during some other times for tastings for beer, which is still good. It still just throw a bunch of ice and some salt in there, and you can slap 4 kegs on it, and off you go. You're styling and profiling with 4 kegs of beer at a tasting or a soccer event or baseball event, softball event, whatever. A big party, and it's good. And again, here's the tanks. It's got a drip tray, and all the beer that drips out of there would run down into a bucket that you keep not on the ground. So this is the brew system.